Friends, this is Meta Frames and I am V.K. Tripathi. Today I am going to talk to you about a person who was very thin, very frail. Nothing extraordinary about his speech or his wisdom, but he confronted two mightiest problems of the 20th century. Number one, imperialism, and number two, sectarianism or color discrimination, racial discrimination, religious discrimination. And this he did with the force of the soul, or force of the truth that he called it. I'm talking about Mahatma Gandhi. He was born on October 2nd, 1869 in India, in a town called Porbandar in Gujarat state. His father, Karamchand Gandhi, and mother, Putlibai, were simple people of modest earnings. Gandhi studied in a local school in Porbandar for 2 years. Then his family moved to Rajkot and he studied in a government high school there. While he was in high school, he got married to Kasturba Gandhi, and within a few months his father passed away. So when he passed high school, his brother arranged for his studies abroad in United Kingdom, and he went there to study law. He stayed there for 3 years, and in his autobiography he describes his stay over there. And during that period, probably in his autobiography he talks about it in 20 pages, but about his studies he talks only in 1 page, and remaining pages he talks about his conversation with people, their attitudes. I will give you one example. Gandhi was living in a very modest rented accommodation, cooking mostly his own food or eating somewhere at a very cheap place, walking to his college on feet so that he could save money. But he mentions one thing, that one day he met a lady, older lady, and she was very kind, and she told Gandhi that whenever he had time, he can visit her at her home. So Gandhi used to go there once in a while. One day, this lady introduced her to a young girl, and she was also very nice. But then Gandhi somehow got worried that maybe many Indians living in UK or London, they hide their matrimonial situation, whether they are married or not, they don't reveal it. So Gandhi thought that maybe this lady is under wrong impression about me. I'm already married and I have a son, and what should I do? And he was unable to speak. He didn't have that much courage. So he wrote a letter to the lady saying that I value your affection and care, but I want to tell you that I'm already married and I have a son. And then he sent that letter to the lady. The lady felt immensely happy that Gandhi doesn't hide things, doesn't conceal things. And with this, Gandhi's pressure from his head was off, and he felt deeply liberated. Then, so this is the kind of narration of his experiences in England Gandhi talks about in his autobiography. And these things were very important, that whatever is there in your heart, you should be able to speak without prejudice, without show off, with simplicity. So that was one fundamental lesson. As far as the law is concerned, Gandhi studied from the original books, and he studied the British law, he studied the French law, and then he came under the impression that the law practiced by the British in UK is very different than the law practiced by Britishers in India. India was a colony of British. So this struck Gandhi very deeply, that law is essentially pursuit of truth, in pursuit of justice. How could it be different, be practiced in England and in India? This is fundamental thing that Gandhi learned. or Gandhi realized during his stay in England. He returned to, after completing his studies, earning the degree of barrister at law, he returned to Bombay. And he started practicing there, but he did not have much success in Bombay, so he moved to Rajkot. And he was earning reasonable money. But then he got an offer from a firm of Seth Abdullah in South Africa. He was having some problem with another Indian living in there, Rustamji. So these two firms had some big dispute in the court. So Abdullah wanted a young lawyer from India to assist his senior lawyer in South Africa in his case. Gandhi went there. So when Gandhi reached Durban, which was the biggest city of Natal colony in South Africa, Seth Abdullah came to receive him at the port, and Gandhi stayed there for nearly a week. But then his case was running in Pretoria, so he had to travel to Pretoria. Gandhi took a train, night train from Durban to Pretoria. On the way to Pretoria, there was no direct train from there to Pretoria, so he had to change the train somewhere else. So while Gandhi boarded the train, after a while the train arrived at Maritzburg railway station. Gandhi had a first-class ticket, so he was staying in the first-class compartment. At the railway station came a white man, and looking at Gandhi, the colored man, he felt annoyed. He called the guard, and guard called the police and asked Gandhi to vacate the compartment, go to the second-class compartment. Gandhi says, "What is the problem? I have first-class ticket, why should I do that?" But then the policeman threw him out of the compartment. The train left. It was a winter time in South Africa, so Gandhi stayed at the train station for the whole night. And that was the moment for transformation for Gandhi. Gandhi kept thinking, what should I do? Should I go back to India? Or should I forget this incident? But after a lot of thinking, Gandhi came to realization that I should not feel agitated by a particular action of an individual. I think it is the problem supported by the state. The discrimination is built in the policy and laws of the state, and consequently, if I have any capability, I must confront the state rather than feeling ill of these people who are insulting me or humiliating me. With these thoughts, Gandhi somehow reached Pretoria, and he started contacting common men, Indian people in South Africa. At that time, the population of Indians in South Africa was about 3%. The whites were ruling there, and their population was about 18%. There were 4 prime colonies. One was called Natal, another was called Transvaal, the third one was called Cape Colony, and the fourth one was Orange Free State. So there were the colonies, and the natives, the Negroes, were severely repressed over there. And Indians had 3 categories. One were the Indians who were taken from India. They were the contract workers who went there on 5-year contract. They were called Girmitia, Mazdoor. And after 5 years, they were free to live there and work wherever they like to work. Second category was the workers who had served 5 years on contract and they were free workers. Third category was the professionals, other people, business class people, doctors, lawyers, etc., who went there to do business or do some jobs. But the largest number was the first 2 categories. They were poor people. So Gandhi started working for them. And education certainly was one of his first considerations. What happened that after Gandhi stayed there for a year, he was successful in resolving the dispute between these two Indian firms, and they negotiated a settlement. Then Gandhi thought that I will go back, but suddenly Gandhi saw in a newspaper at the time when a dinner was arranged, his farewell dinner was arranged by Sheikh Abdullah. He saw in the newspaper a very small news item that the government of Transvaal was bringing a bill that will mandate Indians to pay a heavy tax if they want to stay there on the expiry of their work permit. Gandhi felt that this is bad, so he advised the Indian community that I think this is a way to throw out or flush out Indians from South Africa. I think you should not take it lightly. Oppose it. Those people requested Gandhi that we do not know that much politics or that much law. So if you can stay and help us, then probably we can do something. And this is how Gandhi extended his stay, and he stayed there for 22 years. Well, what Gandhi did immediately afterwards, he prepared a note, a letter requesting the assembly to postpone the passage of the bill. On his request, the assembly postponed, but after 2 days they passed the bill. But then Gandhi thought that he should campaign in England and he should campaign in India. So he arranged for that, and a message was sent to people in India. Some people talked to the Viceroy. And because these workers who were going from India on contract to South Africa, it was with the consent, it was a negotiation with the Indian government or Indian Viceroy. So his approval was necessary if you want to change the terms of contract. And so the white government in South Africa, they cut down the cost of payment from 25 pounds to 3 pounds, but 3 pounds was also very high, because 3 pounds you have to pay every year for every member who was above 16 years of age, or girls, I think they were 12 or 14 years of age. So if there are 4 members in a family like this, then you have to pay $12. 12 pounds in a year, and the average income of a worker for a year was hardly 20 pounds. And if the wife also works, it was maybe 40 pounds. Out of 40 pounds, if you have to pay 12 pounds, which is very significant, these people were hand to mouth. So it was still very large, but they had to live with it for years. So these are the kind of things, issues Gandhi took up. And Gandhi also made an organization called Indian Natal Congress. And then in other colonies also, he organized similar congresses. And this is how Gandhi penetrated into the Indian community. And probably he started developing contacts with all categories of people. And also he started moving into the people who were whites, lawyers, teachers of England origin or of Dutch origin. So he made friends with all sorts of people. He had no inhibition talking to anybody. He has no distinction or discrimination against anyone. Well, in 1906 came the moment when the government of Transvaal formulated a law which was very discriminatory against Indians. It was giving overwhelming power to police to carry search operations against Indians. Indians were supposed to disclose all their details, and they had to get a permit with all fingerprints of all the 10 fingers of hands on the paper. Their marriages were to be certified by the court and so on. Now, this was not required of any other citizen except the Indians. Gandhi felt this is discriminatory. And he called a meeting of Indians. In the meeting, there was one aged person, Haji Muhammad. So Gandhi asked people, Gandhi did not know what to do, what is the follow-up action. The meeting was attended by about 2,000 people, and these people gathered in a hall which was fully packed. Then this Haji Muhammad stood up and he says that, I think this law is humiliating and this is unfair. And keeping Allah, the God, as witness, I say that I will not accept, I will not take the permit, and I will face the consequences. And he sat down. Gandhi got a clue. Gandhi says that Haji has made a very profound observation, a suggestion. And I think if you keep God as witness and take a pledge, you cannot go back. So anyone out of these people of you who feels that this law is unjust and we must oppose it, please raise your hands. And even if a few people raise hands, I will be satisfied. So please don't try to copy others. Only when you are convinced that you can stand by your pledge, then only raise your hands. All the 2,000 people raise their hands that we will take the pledge not to take the permits. And this is the beginning of Satyagraha. Gandhi called this passive resistance or Satyagraha. And this continued for the struggle continued for 8 years, from 2006 to 2014. And I think, please understand, that was a period when a special theory of relativity had come up with the E equal to mc square relation, mass-energy relationship. And that was the central point in the fabrication or making of atom bomb. So this was the year 2005 when this special theory of relativity made an impact on the scientific horizon. The same year Gandhi stood against British might on the strength of simple truth, that if they look at a law, if it is unjust, then resist it with the force of the sword. Face the consequences. You may have to go to jail, you may be killed, but don't succumb to the dictates of the law. A lot of people went to jail. Nearly 10,000 people went to the jail, and the struggle was very long. 8 years is not a small period. These were poor people. And in the last phase, the movement was led by 15 girls of his ashram. They went to a mine and they motivated the workers to go on a strike. And then the workers went on a strike. They struck their work, they came out, and then Gandhi reached there and he launched a long march. Thousands of people went to jail. And one thing happened. While a lot of people were in jail and the movement was growing, suddenly there was a railway strike. Those people, railway people, wanted support of Gandhi and Indian community. Gandhi said, well, our objectives are very different, and I don't want to unnecessarily combine this, though my sympathies are with you, but that is personal. On a personal level, I will sympathize with you, but I don't think we can combine the two. And this kind of position, Gandhi's position, had a tremendous impact on the psyche of the white people in South Africa, that this man is not using any foul means. He speaks truth and stands by it, even in the hardest situations. And finally, there was pressure on the government, and government had to yield. And in 2014, nearly the end of 2014, the government had to repeal the laws, and this was the first victory of Satyagraha on the earth. Please understand that the Indians were the smallest minority, 3% only, mostly poor, working class people. And still they could stand against the might of the regime. And in the beginning of 2015, Gandhi returned to India, and he came with this experience of non-violence, resistance against imperialistic rule, and he was not clear what will you do in India, but he certainly wanted India to be free. Not from the British people, but from British authority. This was his main thing. And I think in our next conversation, I will talk to you about Gandhi's actions in India and his assassination, his martyrdom. Thank you.